Yeah, why don't we get started here? I just finished updating the agenda. So,
Oh,
wel welcome everyone to the PowerShell community October PowerShell community call. We, as usual, we have our issue of agendas. I'll throw it again in the chat in case you missed it. Um, Feel free to add questions or any kind of demos you guys want to do. Hope everyone's having a good day. It's pretty smoky here in Seattle, and I've been hearing reports about it's so bad that some Microsoft Office fire alarms have been going off because the smoke's been so bad. So if you all of a sudden hear a blaring from my end, you'll know that's the reason. But other than that, everything's been going good here, and yeah, we have a pretty short agenda today. And yeah, thanks, Paul, for clarifying. It's unfortunately there's some wildfires in the area causing the smoke. Um, but yeah, we have a pretty short agenda item today, and I can pass it off to Aditya for the
I don't
first
know. Let me go
item.
first, and then
Oh,
I'll flip to
sorry.
the
Thank
two.
you.
Yeah, so I just want to make a quick, I won't use the word announcement because it's not a big news thing. But basically, for this community call for the rest of the year, we'll have one more November. So that's the week before Thanksgiving. And that'll probably be our last one for this year because typically a lot of folks disappear in December, especially even on the team. So we probably should, right now, we should plan to not have a December community call, and the next one after that will be in January. So just as a FYI. That's pretty much it. Okay, Aditya.
Yep. So I have a few quick announcements. We are expecting RC release for 7.3 sometime next week uh, or early the week after. And the big change over there is we, due to some compliance reasons, we won't be supporting Windows 7 anymore. Windows 7 is supposed to be end of life in January of next year. So we have decided to remove support for it now due to compliance reasons. In addition to that, we are planning to have two more servicing releases for 7.0 and 7.2 today. So watch out for those. That's all I have.
Awesome. Thanks, Aditya. Danny, are you here? You want to talk a
I
little bit about
am. I
SSH?
am here. So y'all have to forgive me. I'm having USB issues, so I can't get my webcam working. Okay, so on the SSH side, we have a few updates. The first one is we've started doing a community day to match the, I'd say, PowerShell community day. So every Monday, we're spending, I'd say, a good chunk, if not a large majority of the day, just going through GitHub issues and responding to issues and resolving issues. So if you have anything that's on the OpenSSH repo, just know that we are, I say, slowly picking away at the backlog that is there. Additionally, we are working on the 9.x release of Win32 OpenSSH. The OpenBSD released, I'd say, OpenSSH 9 earlier this year, just like a month or so ago. And so we're working away at porting that over to Win32. And I think the kind of the next item along with the GitHub is we're starting to explore, I'd say, SSH fingerprint validation. And so if you all are familiar with an SSH and the first time you connect to a machine, it says, hey, do you really want to connect to this machine? Yes or no? And it gives you this long string of a server fingerprint. So right now, everyone basically just says yes and never actually validates the machine that they're wanting to talk to. And SSH is overall a very secure form of remoting, but that fingerprint validation is really your best avenue to prevent a man-in-the-middle attack. And just in case someone is, I say, sniffing what you're or has intercepted that communication. And so we have an open discussion on our GitHub repo. I'll post a link once I finish talking. But I'm interested to see if anyone has thoughts on their use cases around fingerprint validation, if they're already validating server fingerprints in some way in their own environments, or would just like to give some general input in the area. And then I'd say the last thing on SSH is we've recently shipped an az.ssh module. And so this supplies a command called enter azvm. and also another command that's called export az VM, I think SSH config. And so what this does, and if any of you have seen, it's any recent talk that I've given on SSH, is it provides access to either your Azure machines or your Arc machines with an SSH connection. And so what the great thing about this, I'd say the enter AZ command, is you can connect to any of your Azure machines, but really you can also connect to any of your Arc machines as well. And if any of you aren't familiar with Azure Arc, it's free to onboard your servers into Arc. You only pay for the services that you use, so it's free to onboard. And SSH, the SSH functionality is also free. And so what you now have is a command that you can get to any of your Arc servers, so any of your on-prem, I'd say non-Azure cloud machines for free. And I'd say the real kicker there is that the Arc machines do not require a public IP address or open incoming ports. And so you can get secure access to any of those machines just with a simple command line, PowerShell command line. So I'd say certainly check that out. I'll post some links in the chat. And I think that's the update on the SSH side.
Awesome. Thanks, Danny. I think there's a few questions. I'll let you answer some of the questions in the chat.
Yeah. Let's see.
If there's anything, yeah, you want to.
Christoph's one. So whatever's done for SSH should ideally being done for RDP for consistency. Yeah. So we're really looking at, I'd say, fingerprint validation all up, and I think Steve and I's approach isn't like, hey, let's just get this working on Win32 OpenSSH and that's it. Really, our goal is to build it in a way that can solve the problem for as many folks as possible. Ideally, that is for SSH all up. If that is also something we can port over to other forms of connectivity, whether that would be RDP or potentially backport to some more legacy forms of connectivity, then maybe. We're certainly designing that with, I'd say, as much capability as we can. Okay, so there's another question. Will this be part of the whole AZ suite when you do install module, or do you have to install this separately? So right now it's a preview module, so you'll have to install it separately. I think eventually there's plans to integrate it with the overall AZ module, but I can let Damien comment on that if he's here. If not, I just know that we are planning on doing it sometime in the future.
Yeah, I can comment on this. So when we release a new module for the AZ services, they go in preview for a couple of months. That's our regular time frame before they merge to AZ, and then there's this break and change policy that kicks in. So we have a couple of months of grace period during which we allow break and change at any time, and then they become part of AZ. So that would follow the same path.
Okay, thank you, Damien. All right, and question from Keith. Has anyone noticed that connecting from Windows Terminal to a remote machine over SSH and then opening a Vim session results in something in Terminal? Okay, that likely is something with Windows Terminal, but we'll take a look at that. I think I recall a similar issue that's open on our GitHub repo already. So maybe you've opened an issue already. Oh, it looks like Tess posted it. Great, you beat me to it. Thanks, Tess. Okay. Okay, let's see. Do you expect RDP console? Oh, it moved on me. Access to guest machines. Yeah, so the kind of fun thing about SSH is it allows for arbitrary tunneling. And so on the Azure CLI, not on the Azure PowerShell module yet, we have a parameter that is just -- RDP. And if you supply that -- RDP parameter, it will automatically set up SSH tunneling for RDP and set that up to a local host port. And so it looks for an unused localhost, and it sets up a tunnel from that localhost to the 3389 on the remote server. And so if you specify -- RDP when you execute your command, and I can show that in a second or at the end if we have time. You can then your SSH command will execute. You'll auth into SSH, and it'll pop open the RDP client, and then you can then auth into RDP and still get that RDP connection into that machine. So RDP is there. It's a little bit of it's over SSH tunneling, but it is there. Overall, we're looking at trying to move folks for server workloads really away from RDP, just because you can't really audit what folks are doing with RDP, whereas with PowerShell remoting or SSH remoting, you can audit and pull those logs. But that's really only primarily for server workloads where you don't need a GUI all up. And if other folks, if people want to just chime in, feel free to chime in. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep scrolling through these questions. And Stephen, if I'm going over my allotted time, feel free to cut me off.
No, you're good. I think there's only one last question, so
Okay.
if you can answer that one quickly, and then we can go to the next items.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
thoughts on 509 cert auth. So this isn't something I've explicitly looked into. We do allow for certificate auth with CA keys with SSH for remoting for Windows and Linux. That auth should also be honored by PowerShell remoting. I'm not familiar with that specific certificate auth, so I can't comment specifically on that. If you want, create an issue on our GitHub repo, and we can follow up on it.
Hey guys, question related to this whole topic, and maybe for the greater team, not just Damien, but what is the future of PowerShell remoting? Is it SSH the plan for the future? I mean, I know
Yeah.
PowerShell's remoting is supported now, but the focus is SSH, right?
Definitely. So on our side, the kind of analogy that I like to use is SSH is the equivalent of, I'd say, PowerShell 7 here, and WinRM is Windows PowerShell 5.1, where nothing's going to happen to it, right? It's going to stay in box. It's going to be available, but all of kind of the future effort is being done on PowerShell 7, and it's being done on OpenSSH. And so if you want to stay with the latest features, SSH is the way to go. And we're at a point where SSH is in Windows images by default. And if it's not there, we have, I'd say, many avenues to supply an SSH bits onto that machine. So really, if you're looking at kind of the path forward, it is SSH through and through.
And to that point, Danny, you say SSH is on the machines in the newer images. I get that, but SSH isn't enabled by default like PowerShell remoting is, right?
Correct. So the SSH client is enabled on Windows clients by default. SSH server is a feature on demand that would have to be enabled on both Windows clients and Windows servers. That's something that we are working on updating, but we are not at that point yet.
Okay. Yeah, for me, that's always the rub, which is PowerShell remoting is ready to go, and I can just connect to it. SSH, not so much, and I am not as well versed in SSH, so I need to bone up on that.
Yeah, and I'd say I don't think anyone ever likes an immediate switch, right?
Sure.
And there's not an immediate switch between WinRM and SSH, right? There is a process of, I'd say, both transitioning customers over as well as internal processes like having SSH on by default, right? And so we are definitely in that transition now. Are we at the point where it's on by default, or we've had a bunch of customers or internal folks move over? No, but we're at the point where we're ready for folks to do that, and we have folks internally actively transitioning and customers starting to actively transition as well. And really, our job now is to make that process as smooth as possible. And so you say like, hey, I don't know SSH remoting, right? But really, our end goal is if you have your PowerShell remoting scripts ready to go, and then they work with WinRM, they should just kind of transition all the way over to working with SSH just behind the scenes.
And so I've successfully stirred up the pot and sidetracked the entire meeting. There's a lot of chat going on here. I just want to point out Michael Green's comment. I would be interested in that. And if people haven't seen it in the chat, if you're a content creator, looks like Microsoft people are looking for content creators to possibly explain this whole scenario. And so, Michael, I would love to reach out to you on that in the future. And I suggest content creators take advantage of that.
And I'd say I'm more than happy to assist in giving you content for your content creation.
Okay, I see one person with their hand up, but then after we'll go to the next topic. Who's got their hand up?
Marvin.
Marvin. Okay.
Hey, I actually appreciate that question quite a bit. We are in my company, we are actively trying to roll this out. And the first challenge that we have is that we haven't moved to server 2022 yet. We are standardized on 2019, but the bits for OpenSSH don't appear to actually be in the image. They appear to be in the features on demand. Is it just in a later build of the image, and that's why we're having the?
Yeah, so I'd say and this might be a nuance of how Windows Server and just Windows does messaging. And so Windows considers feature on demand as inbox. And so even though we are there as we're considered quote unquote there as inbox, we are a feature on demand that requires an install. A lot of folks who manage compliance and allowing features to be installed or not still consider feature on demand as inbox. So they snap to, I'd say, Microsoft and Windows messaging there. If that's something that you have strong opinions on, please file an issue or reach out to me. You can shoot me a message on Twitter or just I can post my email in the chat. But I'd say the loudest voice that rings for I'd say getting change to happen is I'd say your voice. And so as much as I can say like, oh yeah, we're working on having it on by default and there by default, any data, any points that you can say, hey, we're looking to do this transition, which it sounds like you are, but we're being blocked by this, that it makes my life a lot easier. And if my life's easier, it's a lot easier to give you the features you want, right? And so please, I'd say, send me that in writing somewhere. Is what I'll say.
Well, if you leave your email, I will definitely do that. And if I could ask one more follow up, in terms of auth. So so like I'm like in charge of like the CI/CD process, and we're using Jenkins right now. And so what we'll do is we'll have all these Jenkins jobs that remote over to another box to do something, and then sometimes that secondary box will have to remote over. So you got the double hop, right? So I've been able to solve that double hop with regular old PowerShell remoting through just using a geo profile. Works great. However, if we're switching to SSH, one of the things that I noticed is that no matter what you do, even with because I did download the one that had Kerberos working, and it does work. But I think when you do like there's no way to pass and I know it's probably just because it's a PowerShell thing. There's like no way to pass a credential. Like no matter what you do, you gotta do username, password.
Yeah. So
is there any?
So this is something that I had discussions with the team on, and from a point of view of I'd say security with SSH, there's and really the baseline capabilities of SSH with I'd say OpenSSH. There's not a way to pass a username and password programmatically, right? And so really the answer here is don't make a credential object and pass that. Create an SSH key and pass the key. The key will be significantly more secure than the credential that you pass. If you have a significantly robust password, then it's equivalent. But if you think about an SSH key, it's hundreds and hundreds of characters. And odds are the credential that you've created isn't as robust as that key. So really the answer here is don't use a certificate. Generate an SSH key that has access and pass the SSH key.
But if I'm not mistaken, that key, that'll work. That'll work. There were some challenges with that. I gotcha.
Yeah, and I get like a lot of like key-based auth isn't, I'd say, super common in Windows space at this point. It's certainly something that we are trying to move folks towards, just because the robustness and, I'd say, security associated with keys is significantly higher than just a plain old credential.
Yeah, I get it. It's just that the key is associated with like a user profile kind of a thing.
Yeah, and I'd say key management is a large part of SSH, and key management can be difficult. We're also looking at ways that we can, I'd say, simplify that key management, whether that be something with using AAD credentials, where we automatically give you a key and you don't have to actually manage the keys. So there are solutions that we're working on, but I appreciate the kind of the feedback and your thoughts there.
No problem. Thank you for allowing me to ask the question. I will shut up and let you guys get back to it.
Can I chime in real quick with 2 quick things? I think this is a great topic, but I think that it would be better served if you can create an issue or discussion on the OpenSSH repo, so that we can follow up more in detail on that one. And then I just want to clarify one thing real quick on feature on demand. Like, despite the name or maybe some misconceptions, feature on demand is part of Windows. It is supported by Windows, serviced by Windows. It releases within the same timeline as Windows. It's inbox, but it's not on the image by default. But for all intents and purposes, it is Windows. So I just want to clarify that feature on demand is not like a different class citizen from other inbox features.
Yes, thank you for adding that, Steve.
Okay, great. Well, conversation can keep going around the chat and stuff, and maybe more time during the Q&A at the end, but we'll pass it over to Sean for some docs update.
Okay, so let me share my screen here. I want to point out a new article written by my partner in crime here, Mikey Lombardi. Created this tutorial for creating class-based DSC resources. If you've never created a PowerShell class before, or much less a DSC resource, this is a good step-by-step. It takes you from the very beginning of creating essentially an empty shell of a module, and then each step adds a little bit more to it and fleshes it out. So in the next step, it adds the required methods, and then after that, it takes you through filling in what all of those methods do, the full implementation. So by the end, you have a fully defined module here, and it's taking you through all these steps. So this is a great way to get started with class-based development, but this doesn't really cover the concepts of a DSC class-based resource. That's here in this other article. So this article tells you, gives you the concepts behind class-based resources and what the requirements are. And then the tutorial takes you through the process of actually creating one. I also wanted to show you that we've updated the script analyzer documentation. There was a new release, version 1.21. Jim will be talking about that next. But the new documentation is online and available now. And last but not least, I want to talk about our plans for Hacktoberfest. So it is October. We're more than halfway through, but the docs repo is participating in Hacktoberfest, and we have this Hacktoberfest meta issue that we've created. So this is a great way to get started in contributing to docs, where you don't necessarily have to be a PowerShell expert. You don't necessarily have to be a docs expert. We're asking for some help doing some cleanup work, mostly reformatting things. So we have 6 different sort of activities here. And the idea is you read through this you figure out the kind of work you want to do. You identify articles that you want to work on. And then you go to our issues, and there is a issue template for Hacktoberfest. And what this does is you go and select the type of tasks that you're going to complete, and you list the articles that you're going to work on here, and that lets others know who's working on what, and then you submit this issue, and then you work on the updates and submit your PR. So helping us out like this will count towards your Hacktoberfest contributions. And so if you're interested in doing that, get signed up at hacktoberfest.com, and so that you're registered, and they have prizes for people that participate and meet the requirements. So we already have a few. We're tracking all of this in projects. So you can see here on our project any open issues that have been submitted and anything that's been completed. And this isn't just for the PowerShell documentation repo. It also includes Azure PowerShell and the Windows PowerShell docs repository. And those docs are in need of the most help. So if someone wants to help out there, that would be great. And that is my docs update.
And Sean, let me just add, in case people don't realize, those docs are what people rely on to learn how to do various things. And so, I don't know, I think it's pretty cool to have the ability to put something up there that a lot of people could benefit from. And so we certainly encourage you to participate. And if you like to know that you're helping the greater community, there's probably no better way than providing some help that others are going to use. The Microsoft Docs website literally gets millions of hits a month.
Yep. All right, Stephen, back to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sean. And yeah, we'll second everything Mike said about docs. And we'll pass it over to Jim. And I think I don't want to put Chris on the spot, but Chris, if you have anything else to add to about the PSSA release, feel free to chime in. So, Jim, take it away.
Sure. So we recently released 1.21 of Script Analyzer, and I want to do a big shout out to Chris Bergmeister, who's the other maintainer and works on the project. A lot of this is because of him. Highlights for the new Script Analyzers: we've got 3 new rules: avoid multiple type attributes, avoid semicolon as a line terminator, and avoid using broken hash algorithms. So if you're using SHA-1, we'll start to warn on that. Another thing that we've wound up doing is we've added pipelining support for invoke formatter. So you can pipe your script to invoke formatter, and it'll provide you a reformatted script. We've fixed some bugs. We've done a lot of updates to documentation, and coming soon we'll be dropping support for some of these PowerShell versions that are out of support. You can go to the GitHub repository, look at the changelog for more details if you're interested. I understand that the PowerShell extension for code is making this available as well, or gets taken advantage of immediately. So that's what's happening in Script Analyzer.
Awesome, thanks, Jim. And again, big shout out to Chris Bergmeister, who main community maintainer on it. He's put a lot of hard work into getting this release out, and we should have a blog post with all these changes coming shortly. We'll be sure to share that with the community once we get that published. Yeah, let me double check the agenda. Okay, so yeah.
Oh, can I just add one little extra
Yes.
note to that?
Yeah, of course.
Chris also did the work to get the update into VS Code itself. So that was very nice. Not only did he get the update out to PowerShell Script Analyzer, he gave me a couple of pull requests, updating it within our code base and adding configuration for the settings. So, huge major shout out to Chris. It's been good work.
Yes,
Yeah.
thanks. I appreciate that.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Chris. Okay, so then just a quick agenda item. I saw folks were chatting about it in the chat about Ignite. So Ignite happened last week. Hope folks were able to take a look at some sessions that they were interested. We posted a oh shoot, let me get the link again. We posted a PowerShell Unplugged session with April Edwards and Thomas Maurer, and then the whole PM team. Let's see, aka.ms/7 unplugged. So that link will take you to our latest PowerShell Unplugged session. We talk about secret management. We talk about Crescendo, OpenSSH, predictors, all sorts of cool stuff. So be sure to check that out if you haven't already. And so with that, I'll pass it over to Mike for a community update.
Oh, thank you. Hey, everyone. Good to see everyone again. Today, I want to talk about the PowerShell Summit. And so that event occurs in April. And so you may be saying, hey, Mike, it's October. Why are you talking about the PowerShell Summit? And so the way that this process works is before we enable tickets to be sold, we are reaching out to the community and reaching out and asking people to submit CFPs for people who want to present. And so that process happens now. I'm going to send over a couple of links here. And so if you are interested in presenting, the way to do that is through Sessionize. I just shared a link. And so I want to talk about that process a little bit. And so if you're not familiar with the PowerShell Summit, I can give you a link that that will give some information about the summit itself. I think most people on this call are probably familiar with the summit and a sister event, PSConf EU. They're very similar events. They are not run the same, so sometimes the events are a little different. But essentially, PowerShell Summit is a 4-day event that's held in Bellevue, Washington in the end of April. We should traditionally have about 50 speakers that are attending that event and speaking. And to get those 50 speakers, we are in that process right now, encouraging people from the community to participate and possibly present. And so one of the things that I do, along with speaking here, is I run a user group, and my co-lead, Phil Bossman, and I, we come across a similar issue that we deal with at the summit that I deal with the user group, which is, hey man, I can't present. I'm not ready to do that. And the truth is, more people are ready to present than they think they are. And it's my job to kind of encourage people to give it a shot. And so if you want to present at the summit, what does that take? Well, sessions are 45 minutes. There are longer sessions. We also have lightning demos, which will come up later in the calendar year if you want to do that. But right now, presenting at the summit doesn't require anything more than probably a 3 to 5 minute elevator pitch about what you want to present. You don't even have to have code at this point. You simply need to have an idea that you'd like to share with the content committee that is interesting enough for them to give you a shot. And I say that it's not really a process that, like, oh my God, I don't think I have enough. The content committee really wants to help develop people to present at the summit, and we really want to give opportunities to new people. And so you need a 3 to 5 minute elevator pitch, as I said. But if you're not even ready to do that, you can reach out to content@powershell.org, or you can reach out to me directly. I know John Junnell is on this call, or he had to drop. John offered to help. If you need help developing your elevator pitch for the summit, myself and the other people involved with the summit, we would be more than happy to help you develop that elevator pitch. We'd be more than happy to coach you in what's involved in getting a demo through and ready for the summit. I have attended, I have presented, I'm on the committee, and so I'm totally willing to help people in the community get their opportunity to get a spot at the summit. All you need to do is reach out and say, hey, I need some help. I think I can do this, but I'm not sure what's involved. We'd be more than happy to help you with that. But it all starts with reaching out either at content at PowerShell.org or going to Sessionize and putting in a CFP. And so I'd like to encourage everybody on this call to give it a shot. I can tell you from past experience, you can do more than you think you're ready to do. You just have to have the courage to give it a shot. And it's a feather in the cap for almost everybody that presents. It's a great way to share some content with the community and help people learn stuff. So, Sean, you have questions? You're muted.
Yeah. I just wanted to say I dropped a link in the chat to a comment I just added to the community call. I'm thinking about hosting a Hackadoc session, much like Hacktoberfest, at the summit. So I'm trying to gauge interest. So if do a thumbs up +1 on my comment if that's something you're interested in. They're talking about having like a career skills day theme for one of the days of summit this year. So it'd be in line with that kind of thing. And we would be there to help everybody through the process, and take submissions and review them and merge the PRs live right there in the session. That's the goal.
Awesome. And so just very candidly, I can speak about what it was like for me when I presented in 2018. And so I was like, hey, I'm going to try to present at the summit. And so I put in a CFP. I think I put in 3 and they accepted 1. And then immediately afterwards, I was like, oh my God, they accepted my CFP. What am I going to do now? But honestly, the content people were very helpful in getting me ready for that. And it wasn't that hard. I think there's 30 days left. Mark Domansky, who just asked in the chat, November 15th. So it's rapidly approaching. And so we need people to submit. And yeah, I was nervous and I couldn't believe I was accepted. But afterwards, there was a team of people to help me get me ready for that event. And so I want to pay it forward and I want to make sure that I'm available for people who need help. My co-lead at my user group, Phil Bossman, has also been involved with the summit. I don't think he's on the call today, but Phil ran the lightning demos last year. I talked to Phil last night at our user group meeting. We both would be happy to help people if they have ideas they want to develop. I know the content team from PowerShell.org is also willing to help. And so the thing is, you just have to have the courage to put the CFP in, and from there, things will take its course. And if you get selected, we'd be more than happy to help you get ready. The thing is, every year we want to give opportunities to new speakers. There's plenty of people who have done it in the past that are going to submit, and we always want those people to speak again. But we certainly want to give an opportunity to people who have never done it before. You just have to take the opportunity to submit the CFP, and we can help you. And then I'll just mention that if you don't know about the summit and you're not sure if you think it's for you, there is an on-ramp program as well for people that may not be ready to do the full thing. I put the link in there. Essentially, if you go to the website, there's a lot of information to tell you about the summit, what we do, and the things that are available. You can reach out to any one of the content team and ask more information. We'd be happy to help. But yeah, if you want to present, the time to think about that is now. That's all I got for today, guys. My demo's broken and I'm out.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike. Yeah, so with that, we can let me check the issue. If anyone has any questions they want answered, feel free to raise your hand or throw it in the chat. I do see a question on the GitHub. Issue ETA for new OpenSSH version 8.9.1 plus in Windows 11 build, waiting on FIDO2 support. I think Danny might have had to drop, but I don't know if Steve, you can answer this, or someone else on the call who might be able to answer this. If not, Danny can follow up offline.
Yeah, I don't think we have a specific date, but the inbox versions follow the Windows release cycle. However, we'll have a GitHub preview release that is not intended for production before then. So I don't know when we'll have that, but hopefully, if I were to guess, maybe sometime in November.
Cool. Well, I'll pause for a moment if anyone has any questions or wants to unmute.
Sure. Decision we just made. You know what? We're gonna get a stable release of the extension out, not off the current preview. If you're currently using the preview, there is still some updates that we're wanting to beta test. But we have a preview from earlier in October that included a lot of September fixes and has the PSSA update. And just between this chat here with Chris and a chat with Patrick in the background, we'll go ahead and roll that out this week. So in the stable extension for VS Code, you'll have PSSA update as well as some major bug fixes from last September. So that'll come out soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Andy. Is there somewhere to see previous PowerShell Summit agendas so we can see if a session ID would be appropriate for the conference? I'll defer to Mike or someone from the Summit committee if they have a link to that. I'm not positive.
We do have a PowerShell.org YouTube channel that has the playlists for previous summits. I don't have that link offhand, but that would be a good place to start for that.
Okay. Cool. Well, if there's no other questions, we can end a little earlier. Any last things from anyone from the team or community members?
It's just a general thanks to everyone in the community participating, not just on this call, but in the repos, opening issues, or even participating like on PowerShell.org. Like, I think all this really helps the overall community. So thank you.
Yeah, big +1 to that. Cool. Well, if there's nothing else, yeah. Thank you guys so much for coming, and we will see you in November. Great. Have a good day, everyone, or evening, or morning, wherever you are.
Thanks, everyone.